All right, good evening and welcome everyone to tonight's coaching call. I hope you're having a good week so far. This is we're in the midst of our second pillar together of energy. Last Friday, I took you through an overview of what it is and why we should care about managing our energy. This for me was a major pillar for my own personal renew journey for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, I lacked energy, the energy to keep up with my kids, the energy to, and the motivation. So there was a physical component to what was going on with me, but then there was also like mental, psychological, spiritual stuff as well. So I hope last week's presentation really gave you a broad overview. For those of you who didn't make the call live, I hope you did get some time to watch the recording and dig deep because we talked about a lot of things that I think will help you navigate this particular pillar. So, my goals for us in today's session are to check in. Number one, to have a check-in. I want to know how it's going for you. I want to see how many of you were able to do the energy audit. I gave you some homework that I'd love us to report on. I'd also love to have an opportunity to just see if you're struggling with anything. Is there any piece of this challenge that's hard or difficult for you? Because I really want us to be able to, support you and to help address any concerns that you might be having on this journey as well. So for me, this 52-day renew challenge is my way of giving back, my way of pouring into others the life transforming knowledge that really helped me. But I also realize that not everyone fits my exact mold. So I really want to, have regular conversation about what's working for you and what's not. So in today's session, I also really am inviting you to tell me if you're challenged by any of the content so far, if there's anything you want me to go deep on. I'd love to hear that from you as well. So for me, this works only if we all bring our full selves to this process. I realize also that life happens. There's one of you I was chatting with earlier today who is telling me that, look, you've been super silent, but you're in it to win it. And that encouraged me because sometimes when I don't see, specific people showing up in the WhatsApp group or responding, or, it makes me question whether or not there's more going on than I realize. So I, have been checking in on people directly. And it is my sense, at least, that people are with it and people are inspired and people are driven, but I'm not easily offended. So if there's something that's just not working out for you, don't hesitate to share with me. All right. So in today's presentation, I wanted to start off with some, I don't know if you call these memes or things that I saw online that I thought were real great conversation starters. I was scrolling through, this was probably on Facebook yesterday, and I saw this on someone's profile and I really loved it. And it says, your body doesn't just reject food, it also rejects energy. If your body starts rejecting certain places, people, or things, trust it and listen. I don't know, but this one hit me because I think, we're so used to being adults, right? And just, tolerating things that perhaps we wouldn't if we were true to ourselves. And I think there is a fine balance of this statement, of course, because there are some people who are in your life that you can't quite avoid. But I think the general premise of this quote I like, which is be observant about your energy and about who is around you that really affects your ability to be in flow. Be thoughtful about the places that you go to that de-energize you. Be thoughtful about the environment that you create around yourself to keep yourself energized and motivated. So, for example, one of the things I did to boost my energy today, I woke up really early because I went to the doctor to do my lab test. And the lab test I was going to do today required me to come early because it's one of those fasting tests. So we did blood sugar and cholesterol and kidney function. They drew my blood to do that. So I was up really early, which meant that, because I live far from the hospital, I didn't do my normal routine. I didn't work out. And so I went, got the kids ready, did all of that. We left, with my husband. So we all left, got to the doctors, did the blood tests. Of course, I hadn't eaten. I also hadn't worked out. And, then there was a problem with my insurance billing, and then I just could see myself getting a little irritated. And then I just told them, do you know what? Do you actually need me here to sort this problem? And he said, oh, actually, no. Then I'm going to leave. I just decided that honestly, the longer that I'm in this environment, the more upset I'm getting. The more I'm in this environment, the less productive I'm being. The more I'm in this environment, the less productive my day is going. So I needed to extricate myself from this environment because the purpose of me going was to get my labs drawn, and my labs were drawn. This dispute over the billing of my insurance, etc., was not something that I was prepared for mentally or psychologically. And as much as, that was an issue that was beginning to make me a little upset, I had to understand that I had a choice. I'm sharing this as just like a very recent example of something that really resonates with this you're seeing on your screen right now. We have a choice about the environments we put ourselves in. We have a choice about the conversations we engage or entertain. We have a choice. So, I don't know about you, but I really think that sometimes we forget that. Can you write that in the chat box for me? I have a choice. I have a choice. Sometimes we forget that we have choices about whose energy we allow around us, what energy we contain or maintain, etc. And I had to make a choice this morning to say, actually, I don't need to be here. I asked him very respectfully that, sir, I understand that you're on the phone, you're making the calls, trying to confirm with my insurance that what I've done here is covered. But honestly, I'm not seeing the doctor today. I just needed to get these labs done so that when all the results are ready, I can come in and see him. So I said, like, honestly, I think that if you can sort this out, you should, and I need to leave. And I was so proud of myself because the what we're trying to build here is self-awareness and our ability to understand when we're getting a little edgy, we're getting a little out of flow with ourselves. And when I came back home, I have someone who works for us. He comes in a few times a week to do some cleaning and some other things around the house. And so, I came in, to my home office, and he had already cleaned and all of that, but he kind of rearranged my desk in a way that I didn't like. And so before I sat down to work, I also kind of rearranged things in the way that I like it so that I could sit and have some peace. And then I realized that I didn't do my workouts this morning. And so I have a skipping rope behind my desk. And so in between two calls, I just skipped rope. And I cannot tell you how wonderful that was for my mood. So I share these as examples. I'm the one coaching and teaching you, but I'm also practicing all of the things that I'm encouraging you to recognize and practice for yourself. Because the truth is, sometimes we are not our best selves. We are not our most effective selves because we're not making decisions that enable us to conserve energy, create energy. Like skipping rope today for 15 minutes. I did I did about 10 minutes of skipping rope, and then I did 5 minutes of squats. And I didn't even change my clothes. I was wearing these same clothes because honestly, I was like, by the time I'm done changing into workout clothes and come back here, I would have lost at least 5 minutes. So I said, you know what? I'm working home today. All of my calls are behind my computer today. So I don't need to look cute for anyone else but me, and the clients that I'm going to get on the calls with. So I just, decided to get my skipping rope from behind the desk and skip and do my thing. And so exercise helps us create energy and boost our moods. Being able to withdraw yourself from conversations that make you irritable or people that are, testing your nerves is another thing that I just really wanted to emphasize because I see how it works for many of us to be able to recognize that we have a choice, right? I have a choice about whether or not I'm going to respond to something offensive someone says to me. I have a choice. I realize that some of my worst arguments with my husband were often because I didn't realize I had a choice. I could respond in a way, meeting him at the same level of aggression if I felt like he was being aggressive, or I have a choice to say respectfully, I hear you, but I don't have the bandwidth or the emotional capacity to have a decent conversation, a respectful conversation right now. So could we park this until tomorrow or the weekend? I have a choice. My marriage is so much better because I realize I have a choice. The energy and the vibe that you create in your world with your spouse or your kids or your coworkers or employees are really dependent on you activating the fact that you have a choice. These are some two other quotes that I came across this week that I really love. The one on the left is from one of my mentors, Reverend Christine. She said, discernment is also you being able to spot when your spirit is off and needs correction. And this really blessed me because I feel like, oh my, I know that, I was reflecting on my behavior with my daughter yesterday. I was like, I was so short with her. I was so, you know, I did not listen. I was a little short with her and a little too judgmental about something that she said. So I felt like I needed to go back and apologize to her and tell her that honestly, mommy didn't mean to talk to you that way, but this is what was happening. This is what I was concerned about, and I'm sorry. I think practicing personal discernment. Can you put that in the chat box? Practice personal discernment is one of the things that I'm having to learn for myself so that I empathize enough to put myself in someone else's shoes to see whether or not the way I am behaving has potential to strain a relationship that is important to me. So, for example, I have a saying, and I spoke at an event this past weekend, and I was telling the audience, my saying is this: I want to be famous at home. Like I'm someone who, if I'm out with my family, invariably two or three people will come up to me and say hi because they know me from an event I've done or some sort of thing that I've done externally. And so I think that when you are someone who has a lot of external stimulation, it is so easy to disregard or become super familiar with the people who were nearest and dearest to you. So this saying really spoke to me. And I think it links to energy because oftentimes when you notice the shifts in energy of the people around you, sometimes you're in your high horse or on your high horse, and you don't want to admit that you've said something or done something that is needing of you repairing the relationship. So I thought I'd share this one too because it came from one of my mentors, Reverend Christine, who said discernment isn't just the spirit of God revealing to you things about others. It's also sometimes God revealing things about you to you. That the way you spoke to that person wasn't cool. The energy you're bringing to this conversation ain't right. Or the way you're thinking about yourself or speaking to yourself needs to change. And I think we forget that we are the carriers of the energy and the creators of the mood and the environment that we allow ourselves to exist in. So this really blessed me. And then on the right of this slide is another quote that I saw in someone else's feed, and it says, "The seed does not rush to become a tree. It trusts the rain, the soil, the quiet work of time. So can you." And I like this one because I think for I don't know if there are some type A personalities in this group. I don't know if you know what that means, but by nature, I tend to be a blend of choleric and sanguine. So my personality type is I want it done. I want it done yesterday. Do I have some witnesses in the house that can tell me in the chat box if you're that way too? I really like this quote because it says, like, you shouldn't rush to become the tree. Like, trust the processes that you're going through even if it's taking time. And I think someone in here might need to hear that when it comes to this whole renew challenge. Like, just trust this process and don't be in a rush because I've been on this journey since 2022. And I think it was really in the last like well, probably the last year that I've seen a lot of acceleration. It felt super slow, then all of a sudden it became super accelerated. And I think as you were thinking about your life as a whole, I know we're prioritizing hydration, we're prioritizing movement and exercise as daily practices. We're also prioritizing fasting, letting go of something for this period of time. It might feel like, it's been 2 weeks. I don't see any progress. You might be stepping on the scale daily and like, oh my God, I haven't lost any weight or I haven't really, thank you for those admitting in the chat box that you and I are cut from the same mold. We want everything yesterday. We want it real quick and in a hurry. But my point here is like you might be obsessing over the lack of change that you're seeing. And it's been my experience in this renewed journey that the more you obsess, the less results you see. And, don't rush the seeds that are being sown now through this process, wanting to see germination tomorrow. Trust the rain, the soil, and the quiet work of time. And I really felt blessed by these. So I hope these encourage you. I mean, again, my journey has been long. After working out yesterday, I took these photos and I just thought to myself, wow, I am way more flexible, way more lean, a lot less, you know, a lot more toned and grateful. But this right here took time. Um, from 126 kilos to this point took time. The seeds that were sown were painful. Um, there were days I was stepping on the stones, the scale, and just like, oh, when shall I? When will I? When will this, But I tell you, there's just something about the daily showing up for yourself, the daily practicing integrity with yourself, the daily I am choosing and deciding the kind of environment I'm creating around myself. These are the habits that will serve you to make the rest of your life the best of your life. So I share this to encourage you and to tell you that I'm in this with you. Like we're journeying together for real because I want to be walking in integrity with you and letting you know, what's working and what's not. But this idea of it taking time is one that I just really would be remiss if I didn't emphasize on this journey. We're only in our second pillar out of five. And, in pillar two, we're really digging deep on energy. What's the energy and the vibe that you have when it comes to working out and hydration? What's the vibe? Is it I wake up with dread looking to, like, oh, I gotta exercise? Or can we reframe and say, I get to exercise. I get to move my body. I get to fuel my body with nutrition that serves this body well. Because part of what I think shifted with me and why I think this process of renewal has stuck is I really fixated on saying things to myself that would energize me, creating environments around myself that would energize me. So, for example, the space you work out in matters. Like, I decided to rearrange my home office and put my workout mat there so that I would see it daily. When I look up from my desk and I'm trying to get a good view out of the window, I see it daily. Like I can't avoid the fact that if there's no sweat, I've not made broken a sweat today on this exercise mat, I would be reminded. But I also began to do a lot of confessions around fitness and wellness. And I'll share some of those confessions in the WhatsApp group after this call in case any of you would like to use them. But I found scriptures that helped me reframe my mind and energize me towards all of the things that I knew I needed to do more of, like move, exercise and movement, hydration, and also just the commitments to a different way of eating and nourishing my body. So I hope this is helpful. And thank you for the kind comment, Mirabelle. Yeah, I feel good as well. I love that people tell me I look good, but I think to feel this good, this is what I keep praying that Lord, help me never lose this feeling of like boundless energy that I have now. Because I know that, a little over a year ago, this was hard. Like being able to wake up and commit to taking care of me was hard. And the radiance and the energy that I have to do the things that God has called me to do, I pray that that never leaves. But yeah, everybody loves to look good. So do I. So thank you for the kind comments. This weekend, I was speaking at this event and I was sharing with the audience that oftentimes when you go through a journey of transformation, it takes you out of your comfort zone. And I don't know about you, but I love to be comfortable. I love my creature comforts. I love to have things provided. I love to not stress out. I love to not think. I was telling someone recently that, look, I have a very comfortable life now, and I'm kind of orienting my life around a certain ease. And as much as that's great, that can often be a hindrance because if you are not careful, you might be tempted to do what's convenient instead of what's needful. I'm going to say this again. You may be tempted to do what's convenient instead of what's needful. I will work out if it fits into my schedule instead of I will make my schedule around me working out. Convenient or needful? Can you write that in the chat box? Convenient versus needful. Like a lot of us have been lulled into bad habits because we prioritize convenience. So we do fast food instead of cooking nourishing meals. I've really enjoyed seeing in the chat box this week all of the wonderful recipes that people are sharing. And I'm looking forward to trying some of them myself because I reached out to some of you directly to ask, like, how did you do that? I'm gonna try it because of course, I'm in this place where I want to do the needful, not what's convenient. It could be convenient to go order fast food for yourself and your family. It's convenient to have someone else cook the meals and not be diligent about what they're putting into them, but the needful. And as we think about energy and the results we're looking for, I want you to shift your mind from convenience to needful. Like, I will do what is required to live a life of well being. I want to now do what is needful or required in order for the rest of my life to be the best of my life. These are the commitments that I'm encouraging you to make, because if not, this could just be another thing that you did with some random people from around the world. And it'll be like, oh, yeah, I remember when I did the Renew Challenge. I want this to be a starting point for a life of radiant health, boundless energy, and vitality. So I really wanted to emphasize, and I shared it just this weekend with a different audience, but I'm sharing it with you, that our goal has to be that I'm no longer holding on to what's convenient or comfortable, I will do what is needful and required. What is required for you to shed the 5 kilos? What is required? What is required for you to, restore or reverse the chronic disease? What's required? And I think it reminds me of this Bible verse that says, who sets out to build a house without first counting the cost? There's a cost to what we're looking for in order to restore our vibrancy, our vitality, and our vigor. There's a cost. And we have to ask ourselves if we're ready to pay it. It may mean for a season. I remember when I was in between sizes, I'd lost a lot of weight, but I hadn't quite changed wardrobe yet. And I would look at pictures of myself and be shaking my head like, oh my God, you know, I remember my husband once told me, like, you look sickly. You don't even look well. Like you're losing all this weight. What is it for? Blah, blah, blah. Like other people who didn't quite understand my drive would say things that made me feel like, giving up. But the needful, I knew I needed to make drastic changes to my diet, drastic changes to other aspects of my life. That was what was required in order for me to lean into a new way of living. And similarly, I want you to ask yourself the same. Are you ready to do the needful and the required? Or are you just going to keep doing the convenient? Now, the homework. I gave you homework last week when we set off on our challenge, or the second pillar of our challenge on energy. I invited you to set a daily alarm. The one I stole from my coach, she said to put an alarm on. Well, she said she did this, and I stole what she's doing, which is essentially put an alarm on that reminds you at a specific time every day to ask yourself the question, how are you feeling and what do you need? So I want to know if you did it, number one. And if you did it, has it been useful? Has it been helpful? So please let's share. Use your raise hand function. I'll be happy to call on you. I want to know if you've done the homework. And the second thing we were supposed to do for homework was an energy audit. And to do the energy audit, it meant that you needed to fast, stay off of solid food for a day or so, at least 12 hours, and just measure, where your energy's at. What time of the day do you feel naturally energized? And the goal of this is to really get clarity on like your natural rhythm, like what times of the day you should be trying to do certain things, etc. Because again, the goal of this is to help you build enough self-awareness so that you can catch yourself and solve for situations where you may not be making the optimum use of the energy that you have. So, may I see your hands for those of you who are ready to share? I'd love your feedback on this assignment. Uh, how many of you have done it? I'd love to hear as many of you share as possible. Anatu, Anisat, uh, JC. JC's got her hand up, so we'll go to you first. Um, JC, I think I limited people's ability to unmute themselves, so let me give you the ability to do that now. Right.
Okay, now I can
Okay,
now
perfect.
I can talk. Um, so I being do it right now, get results right now kind of person. I did go on a 3-day fast because I was like, okay, I need to figure this out. And it was a dry fast. I had almost the same energy level all through the day. So today was my day fourth, so I haven't had a meal yet. and I'm still having the same energy. I haven't felt like I have a drop. So I'm wondering, how do I figure that out? Because I wasn't tired yesterday. I did my workout later in the evening, but coming from what I've always told myself is that I can be a night owl. I can work throughout the night, and I don't like mornings. So I try to wake up a little later and do whatever I need to do in between the day. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you for reporting. So you fasted for 3 days, dry. You had no water. You had no food. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And you were energized throughout the whole thing?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's impressive. I've never actually heard someone say that, you know. I've heard people say, usually midday they seem, or at some specific time of day. This is remarkable to me, honestly, because I've never heard someone say on a dry fast for that length of time that they were able to just be even killed this way. This is a grace. I'm tempted.
That's what I think.
This is
That's what I
supernatural
think.
energy because oh wow, this is remarkable. And I think uh, it hitherto this dry fast that you've done, I heard you say that you tend to be a night owl, meaning you're more energized throughout the night, or you just made it a habit. Like, help me understand.
So I think I made it a habit because I feel like there's more peace during the night. I can read more. I can do my house chores at night. I feel like there's a peace. So when there's a lot of chaos, I don't work with chaos or unorganized spaces. I feel confused or distracted. And that's why I was saying, my husband says, "Oh, you're fasting and you're running and you're going to the gym." I'm like, "Yeah, I never thought about it that way, but I have done that." So that's why I was having difficulty just to figure out, so when is my energy level?
Huh, interesting. I think I'd recommend a couple of things. Like number one, if you've just made a habit out of working late. I wonder what would happen if you switch. I don't remember who was talking about muscle confusion or pattern interrupt. Like interrupt the pattern and see how that affects your energy. Because if you are someone who has just made a habit out of late night work, maybe your body's just adjusted to it and that's fine. But I know that those who do a lot of late night work also put on a lot of the late night pounds because eating late at night with no real activity going on can sometimes affect their health goals. And is it sitting and is it sedentary work or is it more, thought work or is it physical work? So, for example, I realize like it's unavoidable for me sometimes to have to stay up to finish something. But I find that I'm most energized when I've had full night's rest and come into a new day. And if it means being up early and I can take the quiet in the early morning hours, because I also have that issue about the chaos, especially because I have young kids. And if they're around and, everyone's calling on me for something, but if I, wake up early, if I actually just be in bed before 9 or at 9, and I wake up at 4 instead, and between 4 and 6, I've got these 2 quiet hours, it helps me have a better day more than it helps me when I just do the late night thing and go to bed in the wee hours of the morning. So if you're not noticing that the late night working, the energy to work late night is being affected by, you eat a big meal at night or late night snacking and things like that, then I wouldn't touch it if I were you. But if it is, I would encourage you to maybe interrupt the pattern and see what could become of that too. Because, you know, I've learned, and this I learned from one of my pastors, who said, stop confessing that you're not a morning person. Because I used to also say, like, stop confessing that. Like, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, I am energized morning, noon, and night. This is a confession I just say to myself. Like, I have energy equal to every task. And but I realize that when I'm up late at night, like, and I'm eating things and going straight to bed, like that's affecting my health goals. So I'd rather orient my life to do my things during the day, get to bed, and then wake up early to have some of that peace and quiet that you long for through
Mm-hmm.
the late night working that, because at least uh, during day hours with other people, although they bring chaos, they also bring activity, like chasing after the kids, going to pick them up, moving, like there is activity that's causing you to burn fuel so that your meals during the day are actually put to use. Whereas at night, you're less likely because there's no demand from anyone. So whatever you consume then is often just sat with you as you sit to do whatever it is you're doing. So that's what I would encourage you to consider. I hope it's helpful.
Yeah, I think it's helpful because now I'm just thinking about it because I can actually work throughout the day and maybe sleep at 4 a.m. I don't do it every day, but I also don't eat at night, like before I go to bed. But I have seen days of weight gain, and I'm wondering, how did I get this weight? And I haven't been snacking. But now I know, from your conversation, is probably because I've not had enough sleep.
Yeah, sleep
Yeah,
is
thank you.
is important. And for those of us who are doing a lot of exercise, the recovery is just as important as the exercise. So, the rest enables your muscles to repair because, especially if you're doing weight training, it's essentially you're tearing up some muscles and then it needs the rest time to repair. And it's in the repairing of those muscles that you're building strength. So, sleep is just it's an important ingredient, and I'd encourage you to prioritize it. In last week's presentation on energy, I also talked about one big learning for me was Sabbath rest. Like have a day when you're just you're just liming, as they say. You're just like not doing much, like deliberately light. Like, do you have a day a week that is deliberately light? And for me, for years, I never did. Like I never like how do I not work? Like I did not understand that because I'd always worked since I was 19. So I think for a lot of us, we will have to learn how to prioritize rest. Like I am resting my mind today. I'm not doing anything that's overly, and I think it feeds into the same concept of pattern interrupt. Like I do this most of this week, but then there's this one day that I rest from the labor. Like, what is the thing in your life that's labor? Like, are you incorporating rest from that into each week? Is another thing I'd encourage you to think. All right. Well, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Joanne. Yes. All right. Yeah, Mirabelle is like, wow, that's incredible. 3 days fasting, dry, and being fully energized. That's incredible. Doreen is saying, I am learning to make shifts when my doctor said that the body needs sleep at particular times during the night to repair and heal itself. Yeah. And when we get into, nutrition and exercise, I'll share with you links to some studies and things that I was reading about, like, oh, wow, like your body has a cleanup crew that is activated at night. Like, why would you prevent them from working because you're out here trying to be superwoman? Like, let them do their job. And they're activated, through your circadian rhythm when the body detects that like it's nighttime and there's less sunlight, etc. Certain enzymes and certain hormones are getting to work. But if you continue to expose your eyes to this type of rays from a laptop, you continue to, sit, which they say is the new smoking, your body can't activate that. So you have crappy sleep when you do get to sleep because you're not sleeping at the optimum hours. And then, you just become a vector for disease because that cleanup crew, the healing crew that activates itself during deep, restful sleep, never gets to work. So, Doreen,
So, Doreen, thank
Gloria, were you?
you.
right, I'm gonna mute you. I think you may have unmuted inadvertently. Mirabelle says, yes, the body's natural circadian rhythm just functions better when the sun goes down. Yes. All right. Sharon says, I'm trying to prioritize sleep time. And I think a lot of us, again, just back to what I was saying in the presentation about what is convenient versus what is needful. It's convenient to say, I'll just sleep less hours and then reboot my body with coffee. And I think coffee is a convenience that I'd invite all of us to consider. Like, how much do we need? Like, I don't do coffee. Occasionally I'll have different types of teas, and I usually make the teas myself now. So I'll just do like ginger, like the tea I have in my pot now. It's ginger, cloves. I think I put a little star anise and cinnamon because we live in a developing community and it's quite dusty and things like that. So I like the cinnamons and these herbs to kind of clean out the system. Um, I have green teas or like a flavored tea, but the coffee, like needing the caffeine stimulation is not something I've needed to depend on when I've made these changes. And so this is not me judging anybody, but this is to say that part of what I invite you to look at is how dependent have you become on artificial sources of stimulation. So energy drinks, or coffee. Like, do you absolutely need to have a cup of coffee to function, to come alive, to have energy equal to any of the tasks that you've got on your plate each day? And if so, I'd invite you to look at that as something to work on. Like, if I'm nourishing my body well, if I am hydrated well, if I'm getting enough restful sleep, and if I'm moving adequately, I should not need a constant injection of caffeine to jolt my heart or jolt my body into alertness and attentiveness. And I think that might be something for some of us to work on. Um, because I think for me, I mean, I was never a huge coffee addict, but there were seasons where like I knew if I had a long day, I better make a brew. Like I better brew because uh, to run on less sleep than you actually require means that you're setting yourself up for needing external stimulation, which can become a convenience instead of like a once in a while nice to have, right? Because I love the smell of coffee. And occasionally, like in the last year, I've probably had 2 cups of coffee. I went out with a friend. I was like, it's been a long time since I had a coffee. And this coffee was not because I needed the boost, but because I just miss drinking coffee, right? So I, I encourage thought around that. If you notice that you're needing, energy drinks, I need 2 Red Bulls every day or extra Coca-Cola. You need a sugar hit or sugar rush from something. That might be a sign that you're actually sleep deprived or one of these other metrics isn't where it needs to be. All right. Anyone else care to share? Thank you again, Joanne, for going and sharing. Evelyn, I see you're unmuted. Would you like to go next? Evelyn, would you like to go next? I see you're unmuted. All right, maybe she's inadvertently unmuted. Anyone else care to go next? Did anyone else do my homework? Hmm. Did anyone else do the work? Anyone else care to share? Any questions? Maybe you've been busy and you haven't had a chance. I see someone typed earlier that they also didn't get a chance to watch the recording. They weren't on the call live, but the homework was essentially to track your energy, like your natural energy rhythm. What time of the day are you most energized? And to do this, we're all required to do an energy audit. So if you've not done it, I encourage you to do it this week before our next call on Friday, preferably. My goal with this as well is to help you also unearth like patterns that you've noticed in your own life. So, for example, I noticed that my actual like go to bed routine needed to change a bit because my go to bed routine, I would get in bed, but I won't actually go to bed. So I'd be in bed and I'm scrolling, like that's my like hour and a half of entertainment. And I'd have the phone and I'm just scrolling and scrolling. And I think when that became a habit, that's when I started needing glasses. Like I felt like my eyesight deteriorated so badly because the lights in my room are off and the only light I have is the light from my cell phone. And I'm scrolling and I'm reading and I'm entertaining, I'm checking social media, I'm doing things. And I think the prolonged use of these devices at such close proximity to our faces affects our circadian rhythm because these artificial sources of lighting make it hard for us to fall asleep. And when we do fall asleep, it affects the quality of our sleep. So now my phone is on airplane mode and it's in my drawer by my bedside. And I set an alarm, and usually I even wake up before the alarm, which is how I know my body has truly reset. Now, this is me who 2 years ago was diagnosed with adrenal fatigue. Like my body was shutting itself down. Like I couldn't get out of bed. But now I can set an alarm and even wake up before the alarm and I'm energized. I don't need coffee. I didn't need to run on coffee anymore or run on any other sort of stimulant. I'd be the one drinking a Red Bull in the corner or drinking some sort of, caffeine rich drink because I honestly was not doing right by my body. So again, back to the parameters, like, are you doing what's convenient or what is needful and required? Like to be the kind of person that can wake up naturally without needing to hear the alarm was something that I never thought would be said of me. Like I still set the alarm just in case, but usually I can wake up before it and not need more rest during the day. So I think if there's one encouragement I'd give, it'd be around, shutting down or limiting the use of your devices in bed. And when you get to bed, just be there with your thoughts and be there, just kind of if you could read a physical book, it's way preferred because the light that gets emitted from our devices. Just, I think there's a lot of studies now just showing that over a prolonged period of time, that's really not in our best interest. All right, I think I saw a comment pop up. Let's see. Hmm. All right, JC says I have no problem sleeping. I use the scripture that talks about giving sleep to those he loves. When I sleep deeply. Most nights I try to get 6 to 8 hours. Amazing. Yeah, the Bible says he gives his beloved rest. So yeah, we enjoy our sleep. Sharon says, I use too many devices. It's a problem. I'm going to order an actual alarm clock and will hide my phone at bedtime. I hear you. I was thinking about that for myself as well. Just like a single-use device. This is an alarm, nothing else. So that the phone just doesn't even need to be on if possible. But like airplane mode is what I typically do. I leave it on charge in a drawer by my bedside. And just to, maybe I'll borrow your idea, Sharon, and get an actual alarm clock as well. But again, we want the rest of our lives to be the best of our lives. And for some of us, that means that we're going to have to make some choices, especially the older that we get, the less, you know, the more our bodies change, the more we've got to be deliberate about how we're using our energy. Like for me, like the example I gave you in the presentation, like I was at the hospital. Did I really want to use the energy that I have to argue about something that I didn't even need to be in the room to fix? Or can I just extricate myself from that and use this energy to come do real work, right? And I think when you're someone who has a personality type that's just very outgoing or, you know, choleric like me, choleric and sanguine, I'm a mix of the two. Like you might be expending energy in ways that you don't even realize because you're just so used to Like, you got to speak up for yourself. You got to take care of this. You got to, like, this is wrong. This is right. This is an injustice. And then you're engaged in arguments or engaged in conversations that aren't really productive or useful to you. The Bible says that all things are lawful, but not all things are beneficial. Like, yes, I could have used some of my time this morning and energy this morning to sit there for an extra 35 or 45 minutes to make sure that these people did the billing of my insurance right for these lab tests that I went to do at the doctor's today. Or I could leave them to do what they're meant to do and go on and have a good day, which I did. And I think sometimes the trick is being able to do the cost benefit analysis of where you're spending your energy. And as I shared on the presentation last week, being able to identify your energy vampires. Like, they often come cloaked as situations or as like things or people or comments or things that are just there to sap your energy. And I want us to be so armed with like a discernment around how we're using our time, what we're allowing in our environments, who we're allowing around us, so that we can be in a state of Zen or as close to a state of Zen. I know that's an Asian word and some people think it's kooky. So, Zen means like chill, like just be in a place of chill. Because in that place of chill is where you'll make better decisions. So I hope that's helpful. Anyone else care to share? Or no one did my homework. It's getting quiet in here, ladies. Evelyn, I see you're still unmuted. Would you like to speak? All right. All right. I don't see any new hands up. Okay, Nana says she's not gotten to the homework yet. Thank you for your honesty. I mean, the week is still young, but I encourage before our call on Friday, if everyone could just do it and just see, it was a fascinating exercise for me to do myself. And to just see like where my body's at and where exactly I feel like I get the most energy naturally, so that you can align your day with how your body tends to function. And because of that, tend to work in three bursts. Like, I have the early morning shift where I try to take care of me, do my meditations, and then do urgent emailing or urgent like client stuff. Then I have late afternoon stuff where I'm usually taking meetings. Then I do like a late night between 8 and 10, or like 7 and 9. So usually I'm in bed by 9:30 or 10. Like, I try not to stay up beyond 10, so that I've got these like pockets of where I feel most energized, and I try to put all of my sensitive work around that. So, for example, you notice most of our coaching calls are around this window where I've got this last burst of energy and creativity, right? Because at this time block, my youngest is in bed, and you know, dinner has been made and eaten, and kitchen is clean, and all of the things that, and then I come in to do, kind of the last hurrah of things before I head to bed. And I find that segmenting my day this way has worked really well for me, especially in this past year. All right. Anyone else with anything to share? Even if you didn't do the homework, but you've got a question or a reaction to anything I've said or shared today, let's hear it. And if you've got questions on even our first pillar, so right now we're in pillar 2 on energy, and we started on relationship. If you notice, each builds on the other. So we talked about the relationships with self, with others, with God, with food, and now we're talking about energy. And there's a link there because what we eat adds or subtracts to our energy. The people we're around adds or subtracts to our energy. The vibe, our internal talk, our relationship with self adds or subtracts from our energy. Our spiritual sense of fulfillment or acceptedness adds or subtracts. So my goal here is to just help you journey through these pillars and to be a resource to the extent that I can. Any other contribution? You can use the raise hand function if you like, and I'd be happy to call on you. All right, Mirabelle, please unmute and share.
Thanks, Yawa. So this is more a reflection on discernment. And I think naturally I tend to preserve my energy a lot because I've always had very demanding jobs. And so I feel because my job takes so much time, once I'm not at work or I'm not working, I am, very, very careful about what I do. And my mom always has this expression in our local language in Ghana. She says, Isani, Isani, which means you must, you must, you must. And I'm like, no, I must not do nothing. Um, and it's sort of like when I think back at sort of like the moment of tension I have with her, you must go to this event or that event. And I'm like, no, I'm not going. I'm staying home and just recovering from my intense work. And so I think for me, the questions I always have is, am I too extreme on the preservation of energy thing? Because I don't want to burn out. I just want to, be able to keep going. And I know my work always takes a lot. So then I go the other way. So it's more of a question. And I wonder if others struggle with that as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you for the question. And I think it's a good question to ask because I think for each of us, we've got to strike this fine balance between being so concerned about preserving ourselves and being antisocial, which can happen when you're just all up in this space of I can't. I can't, Americans have this saying that this is not my circus and these are not my monkeys. Like I'm not going to be bothered. I'm not going to step into this ring. I'm not going to exert myself. And I think part of what I teach to some of my coaching clients is that you've got to be able to move from the personal to the organizational to the strategic. Like there's this realm of conversation around energy that boils on the personal. Like for me, as someone recovering from adrenal fatigue, trying to rebuild her body, trying to reclaim health, like I've been very extreme about the things I say yes and no to in a way that someone who is reasonably healthy, reasonably well, not suffering from chronic disease might be a little more loose with. And so I became very rigid on diet in a way that other people who weren't ill like I was may not have needed to be, right? So I say all that to say, Mirabel, that it depends. Like, what are your priorities now? And what is needful for you to do now to enable you to meet the priority, right? And I think like a piece of this is really being clear-minded about what's the assignment for this season. So for example, every year, usually in November, I plan for the next year and I try to get quiet before the Lord and get clarity about what I feel He wants me to focus on. You know what? I'm gonna stand up. I feel like I've been sitting too long. So the goal, a lot of what I do is get quiet before God and see what priorities I need to focus on and see, what I need to, and I get fixated in each of those quarters. I plan everything by quarters, right? So this quarter, I feel like this is what the priority is. And I get hyper fixated, and that's the lens through which I judge everything, every request coming at me, everything that people are inviting me to or asking me to consider, because I think, yes, I could do anything, but I feel like I need to fixate on these, right? So, Maribel, I hope that's a helpful frame that I can't tell you whether what you're doing is right or wrong unless I know what your goals are. Like it may make sense for you as someone who understands she has a very busy work life, that in the moments where she has free time, she prioritizes self in that because otherwise self can get lost. And if that's the context, then I think that's absolutely needful. I'm the kind who will tell you, look, I'm not coming to this event, but here's the gift. Or if I can say someone's going to come represent me, or, you want me to come speak at your event. Regrettably, I've maxed out for all of the free events that I do this quarter, but the earliest I can speak for you all is in May. Because there was a season in my life where everybody wanted me, everybody wants me to come here and go there and blah, blah, blah. And some of these events will come on Saturday and they won't even pay you. So I'm like, you know something, let me limit the amount of free stuff that I do. Like, okay, I do 3 free things every quarter, which is essentially once a month, which means that if I've maxed it out, I've maxed it out. Sorry. So that I can have time for me. Sometimes the free time is me learning, right? Is me refreshing myself. Like today, I've been on a coaching call. It's like, wow, like I'm usually the one coaching, but in today's call, I'm the one being coached, which is nice. So again, prioritizing what works for you based on your bigger vision of what you're working towards and what you believe is the priority. Mirabelle, I hope that's helpful.
Yes, it is. Thanks.
All right, great. Sharon, I see your hand is up as well. Please go ahead and share.
I I'm probably going to continue about from what Mirabelle has said because it's very similar. I too come from a Garth household, so it is the demand. Even in London, there is a demand to do things, and we've recently had a family death in the family, and as per usual with funerals comes arguments, and I have kept myself out of it. I have not engaged. I have my mom on the phone wanting to talk about it, and I have just said, I don't want to hear about it. I'm just put those boundaries because it's just so energy draining. And I
Mm,
think she's been taken aback by how I said, I'm not getting involved. I'm not going to any family meetings. Whatever needs to be done, let it be done. Person's passed away, so however and unfortunately, this person hadn't really planned how they wanted to be buried and all those things. So, just taking myself out of it. Again, I have a very busy job. I've just started a new role, and it's my first senior role, so I'm
mm,
still trying to find my bearings. And so the time I have is very precious to me. And I've noticed that sometimes in the past, I have committed to things. Again, people will ask me to, as a lawyer, people will ask you to look at things, probably not even in your area, but, oh, I'll look into it for you. And I will just offer my time. And then by the time I know I've committed myself to something that I haven't even questioned or found out a bit more, and then that's also taking my time up. Then I start getting panicked because I'm like, this is more than I'd anticipated. So it's also questioning things before I commit to anything. And actually, this year I've decided that I'm not going to do that unless I really do need to help somebody. I'm not engaging in that. I just need to, this year's my year of focus and year of renewal. So I've made those decisions, and already just from a few weeks of just putting that in place, I'm finding that less energy, less anxiety, less feeling guilty for saying no. So it's very important to put yourself first and to recognize what takes your energy and what to commit to and what not to commit to.
oh, I love it. I love it for you. I'm happy for you. And I hope that you keep that up because I think a lot of us, especially as women, we're conditioned to think that if you're not suffering, you're not being a woman. Like it's a self-sacrifice. And thank you for acknowledging that sometimes our nearest and dearest are actually our energy vampires. They want to litigate an issue that happened 10 years ago and want your attention and want you to pick up a fight for something that they care about. And I think that sometimes you need to have leaned out energy. This is something I learned from my coach, but she talked about leaned out. You know, Sheryl Sandberg had a very popular book called Lean In, like get engaged, get deep, you know, but she's like, sometimes you need lean out energy. Like you're not taking the bait when you know someone's trying to get you into a conversation you don't want, or you're not taking the bait when someone's saying something that usually triggers you to feel guilty and therefore say yes to their request. You have leaned out energy. You can, if you like, respect my boundaries, or you don't get to see any of me this year, and say it with a pleasant face. And a scripture that I've really been leaning into on this is I'd have to look it up, but it says wisdom's ways are paths of pleasantness and peace. Like you can be pleasant and peaceful. Like it doesn't need to be a fight. It doesn't need to, you know, like it doesn't have to be I'm taking my earrings off to have this conversation with you. It's like, regrettably, I will not attend your wedding this weekend. I do wish you and Mrs. the best. You know, this is my gift to you, which will get to you by this date at this time. Best wishes, send me photos. Or like you don't have to be everywhere. In fact, you're not needed everywhere. I think sometimes we've got these gaps, like if I don't go, they'll think I'm not nice. And there's this real battle, like what I was talking about between convenience and needful. What is convenient versus what is needful or required. I think there's also this battle between kind and nice. Like so many of us, nice is a chain that we wear around our necks that's suffocating the life out of us. Hey, you're not nice. Like so, like I used to be so afraid for people to tell me I'm not nice because I was grown up in a Christian home. I needed to be nice. But the Bible talks about kind, and kindness is a fruit of the spirit. Like when you're kind, it comes from a place that's deeper than just will they like me or not. Like nice is the thing that we do because I want them to like me. I want them to think I'm a good daughter. I want them to think I'm a good leader. I want them to think kindly of me. But nice is what gets you in trouble. Nice is what gets you overwhelmed. Nice is what makes people walk all over you and disrespect your boundaries. But kind, the scriptures talk about loving others as yourself, not more than yourself. Kind is a fruit of that spirit of having nourished yourself, you can offer from the remnant and the overflow to others from a posture of kindness, not needing to be liked or needing people to, you know, or being guilt tripped into something. And I think that that's another parallel that I encourage you to think about. Like, am I doing this because I just want to be seen as nice? Am I ticking a box? Or do I really feel like this is where I'm meant to spend my Saturday? Or I'm meant to spend my Sunday. And if I'm going to spend my Sunday with you, then I'm going to take another day off during this week as my Sabbath. You know, I did a big event in Kenya last year and we did it on a Saturday. And then on Sundays, on the Sunday, there was another engagement. So I asked them to not book any meetings for me on the Thursday. And Thursday, I went to one of my favorite tour sites in Nairobi to go and feed the giraffe. I took a free day. I went to the spa. I had them retwist my hair for me, did my nails. Like it was a me day. It was me replenishing, rejuvenating, and all of that because I realized that if I did this packed schedule and had like back to back to back to back to back with no day of rest, who am I serving? Right? So sometimes we're so afraid of what people will think, they'll think I'm not nice. But that's actually fear of man, which is actually one of the types of fears described in the Bible. Like, I'm so beholden by your opinion of me that I can't actually replenish, renew, restore, rejuvenate the body that God gave me. And that's an error. So I love what you said, Sharon, that you're, you know, you're being deliberate and you're in your first executive role, which means there's a lot of proving you need to do. And I think you're prioritizing the right things and trying to keep your wits about you in a way that's I think is smart. So well done. Anyone else care to share? Cynthia. I was able to see Cynthia at the event this weekend. Cynthia, it was so good to see you in person.
I'm so good. Sorry, my voice is bad. I started
Oh,
this yesterday.
oh, sorry.
Please, can you hear me?
I hear you.
Okay. It was nice meeting you. Um, I'm still struggling, but I think for the past late last year to this time, I've learned to say no to certain activities.
Hmm.
Last week, for instance, I had 3 engagements, but I put them down and said, which one is more important? And I chose that right. And I haven't regretted it, choosing that one. So I think when we are overwhelmed with like the need to go to attend occasions, the best is to analyze them. What am I benefiting from this? It's not being selfish. If I don't go, what do I lose? What do I gain? And then with that, I said, I'll go for it. A classmate's funeral. The wife died. It's pathetic. I said, no. If I don't go, she will be buried anyway, but I would have lost something somewhere. Initially, the guilt was so much. I said, oh, that's a good friend I know. I have to be there. I have to be there. And I said, Cynthia, if you don't go, that lady will equally be buried. And I look back at my situation. When it's time for you to go through some of these things, you are not looking at the people who will come or will not come. You are happy when they come, but all you want is your loved one laid to rest. And I think it's not the numbers that will come to lay him or her to rest. The arrangement has been made already, so they will surely be laid to rest. We go to support. So if you are not directly involved, it's nice. You can choose the Sunday later and go. And that's what I've learned to do. After church, I'll pass by briefly, say hi, and it is done. And this voice, I think within 2 months, I've had this issue of my voice becoming hoarse. And I'm talking to my doctor, and we can't really figure out what the problem is. But I'm thinking when I'm stressed, it's a contributory factor. So I'm on some days off. I'm home. I've told myself, Cynthia, sleep it out till the sleep won't come again. When you get up, do what you have to do. Thank you. I missed the Friday on call, but I've catch up to a certain point. I'm yet to finish some of the assignments, and I'll catch up too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Cynthia. And again, it was good to see you in person. And I love what you said about choosing, like doing a cost benefit analysis of everything and choosing what will really work with what your priorities are, and making one thing I like about what you said is making alternatives instead of coming to the funeral. Maybe I'll see you after church on Sunday because I'm already in town and I'll just pass by, do a brief, quick, I had a really close friend who used to work for me who, had her birthday and I couldn't go. But last week after my radio show, I invited her to lunch, So I said, I'm going to be in town on Thursday because I was like, look, I live close to Abri. I'm not in town daily. I have client work that I was delivering, and like I said, I want to be famous at home. So I like to be there when my kids are leaving and be here when they're back. And so I didn't go to her birthday, but I was like, well, I could, like, I usually try and squeeze in meetings Thursdays because I'm in town to do my radio show. So I usually try to do lunch meetings with people that I value. So if I haven't seen you in a long time or I missed an important occasion that you had, I usually will invite you to lunch. We'll meet. I usually like to meet, at African Region Hotel because from there I hit the main road and head back to my village. And I pick my kids on the way home. So I have a plan that works for me because I have to eat lunch anyway. So let me invite someone instead of being home. It breaks the monotony of being home as well. So I get a day out, I get good company. I also, make amends for anything that I missed if the person I'm meeting had like something that I couldn't come to. And that's been one of the ways I strategize my life now because you know, my current priorities make it such that I don't often choose to do a lot of social activities. And because of that, I've found different ways to innovate. And I think, Cynthia, that's what you're saying as well. So excellent. Thank you for sharing. Does anyone else care to share what they're learning or some of the strategies that they're employing in order to manage their energy and make sure that they've got the energy that's required to do all the things that are on their plate? All right, let me see. I don't see any new messages in the chat box. No one else with hands up. Nana, I see you're unmuted. Would you like to speak? Nana Afua. All right, Nana Afua, I don't know if you're still with us.
Oh no. Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. I'm just been having a bit of issues with my internet. Apologies. I don't think, yeah. Thanks.
Okay, no worries. Um, well, I don't see any new hands up or any new comments, so maybe we can wrap up today's call a few minutes ahead of schedule. Like I said, before Friday, please do your energy audit. And then please, keep us posted in the group on how things are going. I love the energy I'm seeing around movement, and I love the recipes that were shared this week. Special shout out to Nana Afua, who hooked me up with some spices to make the recipe that she shared with us. So thank you so much for your generosity. I'm looking forward to using the chickpeas that I have in my fridge to try Doreen's recipe as well. So yeah, there's just so much I'm excited about this week, but your energy and your engagement is what makes this journey work. So thank you for letting me continue to journey with you. Um, if you have any other questions or anything, don't hesitate to hit me up on WhatsApp, and I'll see you Friday for our next coaching call. If you don't mind, I'll pray and then we can call it an evening. Dear God, thank you so much for our ability to gather tonight and for all the conversations that we've shared. We're all at different stages of our understanding of energy and how to create it, how to manage it, how to set the right boundaries. And Lord, I just really want to ask for your grace and your discernment that we'll be able to know, who do we need to stop spending time with? What are the things we should give more attention to? And how do we live a life that really enables us to radiate at our optimum? We repent of any ways that we've sought convenience more than we've sought to do what's needful and required. And we just want to pray that everyone who is here, everyone who watches the video, that we'll all just be in the right frame to make lasting changes that will enable us to live the rest of our lives as the best of our lives. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, my friend.
Amen.
Yeah, have a good rest of the week. God willing, see you on Friday. And hopefully, the rest of you who didn't will do your homework and we'll get a chance to debrief it then as well. So, have a good night. Be well. Bye.
Good night. Bye.
Bye.